Hello, welcome back to another episode of Unsecurity Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Nye, with co-host Megan Larkins. Hello, Megan.
Hello, Brad. How are you?
Doing well. And today we have April Meyer on as our guest. We're going to talk a little bit about the new HHS Cyber Performance Goals with her. But first, Megan, what are you doing for fun in your free time? Because we all know how much free time we all have.
We've got tons of it. Say I kind of been continuing the Magic the Gathering a little bit. I made a commitment. Oh, what we did is we discovered how to play Commander style last week. I don't remember if I wouldn't have mentioned that the last time. So my daughter and I found our local game shop and went and tried that. Might go again tonight, but yeah, so we basically got to take the giant collection of cards that I decided to spend money on and opened them all up, and then made ourselves some commander decks. So that was quite the endeavor. And then I had to also commit to getting my daughter a box to put them in because 100 cards you can't just have laying around in a Ziploc bag or something like that. So that was kind of our big thing.
Nice. What about you, April? Anything fun you're doing or working on?
Well, my plans have recently changed. I broke my foot on Monday, so to keep from getting bored, I'm going to start working on writing my next book.
There you go. That works.
Sounds
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Personally, we lost power Monday night in the storms for 7+ hours, so all our food in the fridge was had to be tossed. So I spent Tuesday doing that, and then I said, you know what? I'm gonna take advantage of this, and I just thoroughly scrubbed out the fridge, cleaned it, everything because it was empty, right? What are you gonna do? And then cleaned it up and restocked. So
I
fun,
see.
very exciting.
In more than one way.
Ugh. Oh well.
That is definitely putting the silver lining on your cloud there, though. A nice
You
clean
know,
fridge.
I'm gonna say it was an opportunity to get rid of some older stuff that things just seem to like accumulate, and you're like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
So I had a good excuse to just toss everything and start over.
Yep. Good call.
So I guess April, let's start with you and just get to know you a little bit. How did you get to be in information security? Like, give us a little bit of your background and history.
Yeah, sure. So after graduating from college with a music degree, I actually took a short-term assignment working for Microsoft. And I worked there until my oldest son was born, and he is now 18. So it's been a hot minute. Uh, and I during that year, I was fortunate enough to save up money so that I was able to stay home with him almost full time for the full first year of his life. And then at that time, I went back to work full time and I was processing provider and hospital applications for the Medicare program at the time. And I was working there for a few months and I very quickly identified that I wanted to go back to school and I knew I wanted to get into security. So I went back and I got my degree in network security and forensics while I was working full time and just kept working full time and eventually worked my way into the information security department there at that company. And I guess you can say the rest is history because, here we are. I don't know how many years later. Um, in one way or another, I have been doing something to had a job, with something to do around information security for the last 19 years because while I was working at Microsoft, it was around identity and access controls that I was doing. So it's been fun. It's hard to believe.
Yeah. That's awesome. And yeah, that's quite the path to and change of direction to come from a music degree. As you said, it's
Yeah.
always fun to hear about all the different places that a lot of people, at least in our more or less generation, come into information security from.
Yes, for sure.
Well, and gosh, how long have you been here at FRSecure? 5 years?
It will be 4
4
years
years. Okay.
in November, just before Thanksgiving. Yep. It's, some days it feels like I've been here forever, and other days it feels like just yesterday, like FR Secure is home. I knew that this was where I belonged, and there's,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what, Megan, you're at 7?
Yeah, just hit
At 8?
7 years. Yeah,
So
I
it's
got
been
I got all the LinkedIn pop-ups of people being like, "Congratulations, 7 years." I was like, When was that this month? Was it earlier this month?" My kids were asking. They were like, my daughter was like, "Oh, congratulations!" And she was like, "Is that today?" I'm like, "I don't know. It was sometime this month."
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's awesome. I always love hearing, like April said, that if FR Secure feels like family, it feels like the right place. I think a lot of us have come to just belong here. I know, Brad, you've said your retirement plan is FR Secure. Like, you're not leaving until you retire, at least,
Or they kick me out.
or get kicked out. Right, exactly. I think that's one of the cool things, and I know it's been really awesome to have April be part of our team. And yeah, whenever you mention that, or whenever I think about your anniversary and how you joined, like, yeah, right before Thanksgiving, and I remember some of the chaos that was going on at that point. And I
Yep,
think you were our first remote hire, with the whole pandemic thing
yep,
Oh,
going
right.
on.
Yeah.
So it was
yep.
an interesting experience, experience to say the least.
It was.
I'm pretty sure Peter was manager then, and I was team lead or something like that. And he's like, "Yeah, figure out how to hire this person." And I'm like, "With what time?" Or not hire, train this person. With what time? I've got so many projects to do.
Yeah, I think I sat with Ryan Abraham on one assessment, and then it was like, go.
Yep,
I was
yep.
like, okay, cool, give it to me.
Pretty much,
Do
which is
this.
exactly why, say, April, you get a lot of kudos for the training program that we have in place today, because you provided a lot of feedback and support in helping us build that out. So it was really great. People have a bit better of an experience now.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I think one thing that we all really enjoy, and this will kind of lead into this, is with FR Secure, we get to kind of go down those rabbit holes and focus on the things that really interest us. And you're April really focused, in the healthcare space. So tell us a little bit about the cybersecurity performance goals. Where did they come from? Like, give us a little background on that.
yeah, great question. Well, first, I think before I talk about what the healthcare cybersecurity performance goals are, I think it's really important to understand that healthcare organizations have so many cybersecurity standards and guidance that apply to them, and it can cause a lot of confusion in regards to prioritizing the cybersecurity requirements, right? So the Department of Health and Human Services, in response to the Biden administration's requirements last year, put out um, a set of guidelines with input from industry leaders. They established what we call the Healthcare Cybersecurity Performance Goals to help really set and define that clear direction of the industry and help inform potential future regulations and actions, regulatory actions from the department before they come to fruition. Help get people established and get those things in place so they're not trying to play catch up. So the HCPGs, which is what we refer to them, in short form, they're actually based off of the chassis of CISA's CPGs, and they're designed to help healthcare institutions prioritize the implementation of high impact cybersecurity practices. They include a set of essential goals, which are really the minimum or the foundational cybersecurity practices, and then a set of enhanced goals, which If you think about from a maturity perspective, they're a little bit more advanced. So they encourage the adoption of more advanced practices. Once you've got the foundational controls in place, then from a maturity perspective, you start applying those enhanced controls.
And right now, these are uh, voluntary, correct?
Yes, right now they are all voluntary, but the set of essential CPGs will become mandatory through the HIPAA security rule update that will be coming out, as well as the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services cybersecurity requirements. And those two sets of regulations are set to come out, if I had to guess, in the next 6 to 12 months, give or take.
Mhm.
The amended HIPAA security rule was supposed to come out this spring, but due to the massive breaches that we've seen, like the Change Healthcare situation and others, they have shifted gears a little bit and they're trying to work on some other tactics, but they are strongly encouraging those in the healthcare industry and the public health sector to really focus on implementing those essential performance goals.
And April, you work as a VCSO for at least a couple healthcare organizations, right? Have you had an opportunity to talk with those organizations about what these goals are? What has been the kind of feedback or perspective that you've gotten from those orgs on kind of the receipt and knowledge of these goals so far?
Yeah, yeah. I would say that 11 out of the 15 of my VCSOs are in the healthcare arena,
Yeah,
and I've been talking to them about them since they were released. I've talked to other VCSOs on the team, and I've even spoken to some of their clients. I'm making sure that people are well aware. We're educating, um, just ensuring that they understand what the changes are so that they can get ahead of it. Clients that we have are extremely grateful
hmm,
that we are helping them prepare ahead of time. The understanding from the HIPAA security rule update is that once it goes into effect, they're going to be penalized
yeah,
for not having these things in place. And so we don't want people to be caught in that position. And not to mention, I don't know about you guys, but we all need healthcare, and I don't want any of the uh, entities that I've ever had to receive healthcare from to experience ransomware attack or any other kind of breach and my data be out there.
right.
So, I make it a personal goal to do everything that I can to work with the clients and make sure that they understand the importance of this and the prioritization of getting these controls put in place.
Right. Yeah, because I think we've seen in the healthcare industry in general, they've had a lot more attention, both from attackers, but kind of just the cybersecurity world in general lately, because they've been kind of pretty susceptible to this. Like, I know even in our work with those healthcare clients, sometimes it's hard to get the manpower and the dollars and budgets to spend on improving their IT infrastructure, their security infrastructure, because it's not directly related to patient care. And so it tends to
Yep.
be deprioritized, right?
Yep.
And so that's been a real struggle for them. I don't know, like, I, you mentioned kind of the complexities, the different regulations from cybersecurity. Have you got any perspective, either yourself or from those clients that you have, if this is making their job any easier or harder? Is it just like another layer on top of all the other things, or is it kind of encompassing and simplifying anything for them?
This is definitely bringing it all together
Mhm.
and simplifying it. Um, for anyone that is already aligned with the NIST 800-53 framework, they're already well on their way, because these controls align very nicely with that. If they're aligned with the NIST CSF framework, they're there.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they're aligned with the HICP framework, they're well on their way as well. But a lot of organizations aren't even aware of those frameworks and how to implement a lot of those controls and what controls should they implement. So they're not doing a lot of that. Um, the big feedback that I've received from a lot of clients is that what we're doing is gold, and it's helping them identify where to put that attention. And especially right now, with the time of year it is, everybody is putting together their budget for 2025, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so by providing these resources and this information to them, they're able to identify what tools or resources are they going to need moving into 2025 to be able to implement some of these controls, and what is that going to entail. So it's been a lot of positive feedback from clients.
You know, one thing I think maybe we should clarify too is you've mentioned these organizations. Who exactly do the HCPGs apply to?
Yeah, that's another great question actually. Um, the the HCPGs apply to healthcare organizations and anyone in the public health sector that deals with PHI, so personal health information, or PII, personal identifying information, and or anyone that is required to comply with HIPAA, high tech, or any CMS regulations. So if you fall under those umbrellas, or you're a covered entity, right? If you're a covered entity, you have a BAA with a healthcare organization, you need to be compliant with these regulations or these cybersecurity performance goals as well.
I'd be interested to see how they if they incentivize this, like the CMS for Medicare. There are certain things you have to do. If you do, the risk assessment, you do certain things, you get incentivized. I wonder how they'll incentivize the essential or the advanced or enhanced, I should say.
Yeah, that is something that is interesting. I know as far as the essential goals go, there is no talk of incentivizing the implementation of those, because really that's, the
The
basics.
bare
It's
minimum.
bare minimum set of controls that you should have in place. But for any entity that has implemented the enhanced goals, or maybe even some of the enhanced goals, there is talk about incentivization around those.
Okay.
Whether that incentivization is going to come from CMS or HHS, I think that's yet to be determined. Maybe there will be incentivization from both, just depending upon the type of contract and regulations.
That'll be good because, like we said, we know healthcare runs on a really thin margin and they don't have a
Yeah.
lot of extra money. So it would make sense to say you put in the effort. We're going to give you at least help offset those costs.
Yep.
I wanted to go back real quick. April mentioned the resources that we're providing to clients, and that she's really been providing. And so what she's referring to there is April very kindly or enthusiastically, whatever the appropriate word is, there put together some checklists to help organizations identify what they should be doing to meet those essential and enhanced goals. And actually, anyone can go and find those on our website. So if you go to FRSecure.com, under the Learn drop down, there's a resources page, and then it is actually listed under the checklists as the Department of Health and Human Services Cybersecurity Performance Goals checklists. And so definitely, if you're looking for those, curious about what's entailed, those are available there for download.
We'll make sure that when marketing sends this out, we include a link in
Oh yeah.
in our social media pages so that you can find that too. So you're not trying to remember what Megan said if you're in the
Good. I'll remember that I don't have to be so specific next time. I'm too used to offering instruction and being like, go here, then here, then here.
and now people are seeing the behind the scenes of why Megan is like really good at like complimenting my more like we'll figure it out approach.
It's out there somewhere. Do a Google search.
It's on our website. Go find it.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's see.
So we talked about who they apply to. Not required yet. Essential will be required. Do you? Just out of curiosity, do you think the enhanced will become required at some point, or?
I don't think all of the enhanced will become required. There certainly are some enhanced controls that I feel will become required. The big one that I can really think of is going to be network segmentation.
Mm,
But
Mhm.
that is going to be, hopefully, will come with some sort of financial help, because
right.
that's going to be a huge heavy lift for anybody. Most healthcare entities, there's not a whole lot of segmentation in place there.
Yeah.
It's
So,
going to be,
sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that's going to be a challenge for them to unravel what's been done for years and years and years.
I just thought of this. So we, there's 10 essential goals, 10 enhanced goals. I'm just going to run through them real quick so that the listeners know what they are at least,
Yeah.
because I think that makes sense. Mitigate known vulnerabilities. Well, yeah, duh. Email security. Yeah. Business email compromise. One of the big uh, threats. Multi-factor authentication. Basic cybersecurity training. Strong encryption. Revoke credentials for departing workforce members, including employees, contractors, affiliates, and volunteers. Basic incident planning and preparedness, unique credentials, separate user and privileged accounts, and vendor supplier cybersecurity requirements. Those are essential. And that last one is one we're seeing a lot more across a lot of different industries becoming a requirement. So yeah, you better get
Mhm.
ahead of it. But just quickly, like I guess, what is you guys' feedback or thoughts initially on those 10? Are they? Is it sufficient? Is it good? What do you think?
I definitely thought it was kind of interesting seeing what they picked. And then I think April's maybe got a little bit more insight, but just kind of reading and understanding like why they picked those specific things. Cause I think that's a maybe not frequent, but at least periodic topic of conversation among our team and probably other information security experts is like, what is the foundational building blocks that you start with? And I thought it was interesting in particular, like one that we almost always have in there is asset inventory, and that's on the enhanced goals. And so it's like, what? Why is asset inventory on the enhanced goals? That's so essential. But then I was talking with another colleague earlier this week, and kind of the way that I thought about it is like asset inventory is also not easy. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of time. And so, as part of these essential goals, I think they really are trying to kind of like be realistic and hit the most powerful things. And so, even if you don't apply those protections universally across everything, if you at least get it 90% there, which probably most IT security teams can do without a full asset inventory, they know the majority of the systems that are connecting or that their employees and volunteers and so forth are using. They can get most of the way there. And so, if an asset inventory is going to be the thing that stops them in their tracks and makes it so they can't proceed to putting those other really useful controls in place, then yeah, let's do it later. So I think that was one of the things that hit me.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way I kind of looked at it too is that was my initial thought, right? Is, how can you mitigate known vulnerabilities if you don't know what assets you have, right? You can't
Right.
protect what you don't know you have. But then I took a step back and I looked at it really from a maturity standpoint
Hmm.
and a holistic perspective. And I took a look at the essential goals and I really broke it down. And they really truly are fundamental and foundational at the core level. Um, the focus there really is from more of the attack vectors that we're seeing
Right.
with the healthcare breaches and where those bad actors are focusing. Their primary focus in healthcare is the identity based, so social engineering, compromising those legitimate credentials to move laterally within the organization. So several of those essential CPGs include, that basic cybersecurity training, the um, email security measures, revoking credentials, things like that, because they are um, relatively lower cost and they're going to be yielding a lot higher actions to protect the organization from those types of attacks. And so
Yeah,
that's,
I, I'm with you guys. I think overall they were good. I think if I would make one change, it would be put asset inventory in essentials instead of strong encryption. And the
Hmm.
yeah,
reason, most of the software today is built with that strong encryption, right? And by default, you're going to have that in a lot of things. It's going to be legacy stuff that isn't going to support it anyway. So to me, but I don't know, maybe a
Yeah.
little bit picky, but
yeah, and I can see too from HHS's perspective why that strong encryption is in there, right? We're
yeah, oh,
talking about
I get it.
PHI, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But I completely agree with you on that one, Brad, is that would be my switch too.
Yeah.
So,
Kind of expecting that that encryption is kind of almost a given at this point, even if
right.
it's not the strongest one. So
Yeah.
something is there, um, but maybe it's missing in more places than we know. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
It really is.
Yeah.
well, the problem you run into is the medical devices, and they
Yep.
don't support it. Well,
Right.
you can't do anything about it if your vendor does not support it. And, so now it's going to be really pushing on vendors, and then who wants to update a medical pump that might break and is someone's life is dependent on it.
Right.
Yep.
Ugh. Well, real quick, let's hit the enhanced goals. Just run through them real quick. You got asset inventory that we've already hit on, third party vulnerability disclosure, third party incident reporting, cybersecurity testing, cybersecurity mitigation, detect and respond to relevant threats, tactics, techniques, and procedures, or TTPs, network segmentation, centralized log collection, centralized incident planning and preparedness, configuration management. I, I mean, other than what we've already talked about, I'm actually pretty happy with those.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it feels like a really good list that does just what it's intending to. It matures your basic information security program. It's helping you get a little bit more on the proactive side rather than reactive. I think most of the controls in the essential are about prevention and being able to react. Like, I do appreciate that the incident response is noted. It's like, even if all your controls aren't perfect, or because your controls aren't perfect, you need to be able to respond to an incident and you need to be
Right.
able to react quickly. And then these things are getting more in depth, making sure that you've got that more complete asset inventory. You know all of the things, you're filling in some of the gaps. You've got a more mature program in place to, yeah, potentially help stop, slow down, prevent, detect an attack on your environment.
Yes.
Awesome. It, April, anything else you'd like to add? This has been hopefully very informative for people.
Yeah, I think, um, probably the big question that people might be asking would be around, okay, so if we implement the essential goals, does that mean we're good, right? Do we stop there? Are we okay? And what I would definitely say to that is by implementing those essential CPGs, it's going to at least help you combat those most common attack vectors, but you're still going to want to continue to do your due diligence, bolster your existing security program, continue to evaluate and assess at least annually the maturity of your security posture, and continue to add additional security controls in to thwart those threats. Because we know that it's ever changing. They're finding new ways
Yeah.
every day to get in and take advantage of our environment. So,
Yeah,
Mhm.
I look at those essential. Like, that's the bare minimum, right? Is that
Mhm.
yeah,
are you happy with the bare minimum? That's
right.
huh.
Yeah. Yeah, not only that, but kind of as you pointed out too, like it's and as we discussed with the asset inventory, like if you do though just the essential goals, you may be missing some pretty big uh,
Yep.
or have still some pretty big gaps. And just like you said, April, too, like these are designed off of the most common attacked vectors. But then, like you said, Brad, they're constantly changing. So unless they're going to update the CPGs like every 6 to 12 months, which they're probably not, then you're not going to be universally protected against all threats that come your way. And so you do have to you should want to enhance your program, because I
Mm-hmm.
think the one thing that we haven't touched on, but I know when I was preparing things about this conversation for just our sales team and why it's like, why does this matter other than just, well, they have to do it because it's compliance? Well, the whole reason with how we started is that healthcare is under attack. They are seeing a vast increase in breaches, in ransomware attacks, and we're seeing now too that going back to, I guess, what I said at the beginning too, what healthcare cares about and how they've been budgeting, this does impact patients. It does impact their
Mm-hmm.
ability to provide care, because we have seen that hospitals have to shut down. They have to send patients elsewhere. If it's a really sensitive case, that patient may not make it, or they may not receive the care that they needed to in the timely fashion that they did. And both in dollars for the hospital and in their objective to provide care, that is going to be hurting those medical organizations and being very damaging. So yeah, don't even just do it because you have to, and you should. Well, I think as information security people in particular, we tend to be rule followers and wanting to do the thing and reduce the risk, but not everyone else lives that way. But there are other reasons, monetary and patient care as well, that these essential goals absolutely should be enacted. But really looking at the enhanced goals, the majority of those should be worked on and progressed
Yep.
as well and considered.
Absolutely. Well, April, thank you so much for being on. We always like to end with a shout out to someone. We'll start with Megan and give April a second here to come up with someone.
There you go. I did not think about this before, but I guess the thing on my mind is, and I got to say it without crying, just because we lost our older cat this week. And so I'm just going to give him a little bit of recognition. He was a really awesome cat. His name was Grunty because we adopted him when he was overweight and grunted everywhere he went. But he lived with my husband and I for 13 years,
Wow.
and is a really good cat.
Wow. This one, April.
Awesome. Um, I'm going to have to give a shout out to my grandfather. I found out on Monday that he had been admitted to the hospital, and I have not seen or spoken to them in several years. So I went up to see him, and he was discharged on Tuesday, and I sent a message to him yesterday to see how he's doing, and he let me know that he is feeling much better and getting
Awesome.
along. So,
Good news.
That's
yeah.
good to hear.
I'm going to give a shout out to my nephew Caleb, who just had a birthday. And I know that will make his day to hear
Yeah.
that. So
Happy birthday, Caleb.
Happy birthday.
awesome. All right. Well, with that, we will wrap it up and talk to you guys next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.